So let's begin by offering our respects to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram.
Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.
Okay, so what did we say in the previous class? Do you remember anything? We
We
started.
started with chapter 8, no?
Yes, we started with chapter 8. What is the title of chapter 8?
Attaining the Supreme.
Yes, attaining the Supreme. So what did we see in this chapter?
We saw that the last two verses of chapter 7 are the seeds. Like they sow the seeds for the beginning of the chapter 8.
Yes.
Like 7.29 and 7.30.
Yes, because there in 7.29, Krishna talks about a devotee who worships him, but he has a desire for liberation. So we gave the definition that such categories of devotees are called as Yoga Mishra Bhaktas. So Yoga Mishra Bhakta, we define one who desires liberation. He's not interested in sense gratification, and he accepts the supremacy of Krishna. And what is it that distinguishes a Yoga Mishra Bhakta from a pure devotee? Is that the pure devotee does not even desire liberation. Okay. So this chapter begins with Arjuna asking some questions. How many questions did Arjuna ask in the beginning of chapter 8? 7 questions, isn't it? So 1 and 2 are Arjuna's 7 questions. And Krishna answers 6 questions in 2 verses. In 8.3, he answers 3. And in 8.4, he answers 3 more questions. So basically, Krishna doesn't go into much detail into when he answers 6 questions. And neither does Prabhupada go into great detail in the purpose to explain these terms. But the last question that Arjuna asks, the very crucial question, the entire chapter is based on answering this crucial question of Arjuna, which was, how can those engaged in devotional service, the self-control, know you at the time of death? So basically, this entire chapter is dedicated to answering this question from Arjuna, the last of his 7 questions. So in answering to this, we saw the law of last thought, which was
whatever you think and at the time of death, you will whatever you desire at the time of death, you will get so in your next birth.
Yes, exactly. And relationship. So this is our goal, that we want to think about Krishna at the time of death, and we saw how Bhishma Dev, he practically applied this particular teaching of Krishna when he was on his deathbed, when he was about to give up his body. He requested Krishna to stand by the feet so that when he is giving up the body, he can be looking at Krishna's lotus face. So he applied this before he gave up his body. Okay, and then we saw the example of Bharat Maharaj, who had renounced his kingdom. He went to the forest in order to practice sadhana, but there he got attached to a deer. And the attachment became so deep that even when he was doing his personal sadhana, he was thinking about the deer, about the well-being of the deer. And the attachment was grew so to such an extent that even when he passed away, even when he was dying, he was thinking, who's going to take care of the deer when I'm dead and gone? So because of that, he had to be born as a deer in his next life. So then we saw some very nice quotes where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prays. I mean, he tells us who can easily chant the holy name of the Lord. So he says that humility is a very, very important quality. One needs to be humble to be able to effortlessly chant this holy name. So he says that one should be lower than the grass on the street, should be more tolerant than the tree, and devoid of all false prestige. Amanina manadena. He should be free from all false prestige and should be ready to give respect to others. So when one is in this kind of a state of mind, then it is easy for him to chant. Okay, so then we saw this another important verse which Prabhupada quotes in the purport of 3.11, which says that ahara shuddha, the ahara should be shuddha, it should be pure. If the ahara is pure, then the mind automatically will get purified. And when the mind is purified, then one can constantly remember Dhruva Smriti. One can constantly remember the Lord. And when one constantly remembers the Lord, then what happens? Sarva Granthinam. One is free from all kinds of bondage, all kinds of knots are opened up, and then Vipra Moksha, one becomes liberated. So it's very important that the ahara is Shuddhi, it is pure. Okay, and then we saw the different ways in which we can remember the Lord. But of course, the recommended process, the recommended way in which we should remember the Lord is by bhakti, by devotion. It's not recommended that we remember Krishna by envy or fear. Okay. And then we saw this thing that in case one is not able to remember the Lord at the time of death, in spite of engaging in devotional service because of experiencing crucial pain at the time of death, then Krishna says that if his devotee cannot remember him, then he will remember his devotee. So yadi vatadi doshena mam bhakto, if my devotee cannot remember me, then what does he do? Mam na cha smaret, he cannot remember him. Then what does Krishna do? Aham smarami mam bhakta, I will remember my devotee. And then Nayami parama gatim, I will take him to the parama gatim, to my supreme abode. So we discussed how bhakti is a win-win situation. So we saw how bhakti requires a lifetime of preparation. It's not something that one should do in the old age. It's not a retirement plan. Neither is it an extracurricular activity. Neither is it a crash course that can be taken, learn bhakti in 30 days. It's not something like that. It takes a lifetime of preparation. And we concluded saying that how bhakti is Jaiva Dharma, bhakti is Nitya Dharma. Jaiva Dharma is the duty of every jiva, of every living entity. And it is Nitya Dharma, it is eternal duty. Not that once I am liberated, then I don't have to do any more bhakti. No, doesn't matter whether I'm in the material world or I'm in the spiritual world. I have to engage in the bhakti yoga process because eternally I am the servant of God. And servant means to serve. And to serve, bhakti means service. Prabhupada explains that bhakti means to serve. It's very easy for someone to say, oh yes, I am a devotee. But what are you doing? What are you doing to show that you're a devotee? Are you engaging in the Lord's service? If somebody says, if a boy and a girl, they say, oh, I love you very much. Okay, but then you have to serve, right? The husband has to serve the wife has to serve the husband. So that love is shown by service, just by saying that I love you and then not doing anything, just sitting and doing nothing about it, then that's not love. So love is expressed by service. So like that bhakti also, when we say that we love God, we have devotion for the Lord, then service automatically should be there. Okay, so let's begin with today's verse. Please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Om Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Okay, so volunteers for reading.
Okay, I can do it because we are just 4 of us. So.
Okay, Shreya, thank you. And one more volunteer to read.
I can do it, Mataji.
Okay, thank you, Mehak. Let's hear 8.7.
तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु मामनुस्मर युध्य च मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिर्मामे वैश्यस्य संशयः.
Meg, do you want to do translation or the other text?
Sure, I can go for translation,
Okay.
Shreya.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Translation. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt.
So what do we have to do to be able to remember Krishna at the time of death? That Krishna is explaining in 8.7. To be able to remember Krishna at the time of death, then now Krishna says, Sarveshu Kaleshu. At all times, Sarveshu, all times, Kaleshu. Sarveshu means at all, and Kaleshu means time. So Sarveshu, Kaleshu, what we have to do? Mam Anusmara. Go on remembering, keep on thinking about whom, Mam, Krishna saying me. So we have to, at all times, think about Krishna. Now, what is he telling Arjuna? Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha, means you fight, right? You do your duty, you're a Kshatriya. But before fighting, before he tells him that you have to fight, he's telling him Mam Anusmara, you have to think about me. Now, the same thing applies to us. We may be engaged in materialistic duties, right? Our families, jobs, studies, whatever it is. But at the same time, we have to think of Krishna. Then what is he saying? Mai arpita mano buddhir. Mai arpita, arpan karna. You have to dedicate to me what mano and buddhi, the mind, man and buddhi, the intellect. So, so basically Krishna is talking about physically because he's telling him yudhyacha. So when he fights, he's going to use his physically he's going to act for Krishna. Also dedicate his mind, mano and intellect, buddhi. So physically, mentally and intellectually, we have to dedicate or we have to think about Krishna. If here also, what comes first? See, in chapter 3, actually, if you go back, even before chapter 3, in chapter 2, Krishna tells Arjuna first that you fight this war and you will be able to enjoy in the heavenly planets. And then after a few verses in the same chapter 2, Krishna tells Arjuna, you fight because it is your duty. So now there is a progress. Previously from him enjoying heavenly planets, which is karma kanda, which is still materialistic, he took him to the level of fighting because it is your duty. Don't think about the results. Then in the 3rd chapter, Krishna said, you do your work and give the fruits to me. So here the work comes first and then the offering comes later. But now in 8.7, Krishna is saying, first you think about me, then do your work. So there is a deepening of devotion here. Previously, it was the offering comes after the action. But here, Krishna is saying, first you think of me. So meditating on Krishna comes first, and then comes the work. So we can see how Krishna is taking Arjuna to higher understandings. So this we already discussed, how physically, mentally, and intellectually we have to dedicate our activities to Krishna and think of him. Okay, let's go to 8.8.
अभ्यासयोगयुक्तेन चेतसा नान्यगामिना परमं पुरुषं दिव्यं याति पार्थानुचिन्तयन्.
He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me.
So here in 8.8, Krishna is making the same point that he made in 8.7, which is that we have to constantly think of him. What is he saying? Abhyasa yoga yuktena. By abhyasa, by practice of meditation, abhyasa yogena, then what happens? Chetasa na anya gamina. The mind and intellect will not be deviated from the path. And then such a person, he is sure to attain me. He says, he is sure to attain Paramam Purusham Divyam. Who is that Paramam Purusham Divyam? It is Krishna. So therefore he's saying, such a person who practices yoga, who practices meditating on me, then his mind and intelligence is not deviated. Chetasa na anya gamina. And then he can attain Paramam Purusham Divyam. So with this, we come to the end of section 2. Let's read this.
End of section 2, 8.5 to 8.8. Remembering Krishna at the time of death. One attains whatever one remembers at the time of death. Krishna recommends Arjuna to undeviatingly meditate on him, dedicate his activities to him, and thus attain him.
So let's go to section 3 now. In section 3, Krishna is going to talk about how a Yoga Mishra Bhakta can think about Krishna. Let's read this.
Section 3, 8.9 to 8.13. Remembering Krishna. Practice remembrance through meditation. In this section of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is discussing Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Yoga Mishra Bhakti is bhakti, but bhakti mixed with aspirations of a yogi seeking liberation from birth and death. It is also called Moksha Kami Bhakti.
So Yoga Mishra Bhakti is also called as Moksha Kami Bhakti, because a Yoga Mishra Bhakta, what does he desire? What is his calm? What is his desire? To get liberation. Therefore, a Yoga Mishra Bhakta is also called as a Moksha Kami Bhakta. Okay, let's see. Okay, so here are the different kinds of devotees that we have seen so far. Let's read.
Different categories of devotees. Karma Mishra Bhakti. Bhakti mixed with desire to enjoy the results of those activities, karmis, elevation to heavenly planets. Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Bhakti mixed with the desire to accumulate transcendental knowledge. Comes from the background of yogic practice, jnanis, merged in Brahman effulgence. Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Bhakti mixed with aspirations of liberation from birth and death, yogis, realize the Brahman or Paramatma feature of the Lord. Shuddha Bhakti, Anya Abhilashita Shunyam Bhaktas, realize the Bhagavan feature. Pure bhakti does not depend on karma, gyan, or yoga. It simply consists of loving affairs. Results of activities, transcendental knowledge, and liberation are all automatic byproducts of loving service to the Lord.
So the word Mishra means mixed. So Karma Mishra Bhakti means there is bhakti, but that bhakti is mixed with a desire for getting fruitive results. So that is karma mishra bhakti. When bhakti is mixed with a desire to accumulate knowledge, then it is jnana mishra bhakta. When bhakti is mixed with the desire for liberation, then yoga mishra bhakti. What is Shuddha Bhakti? Sri Rupa Goswami gives this definition in his Nectar of Devotion. Shuddha Bhakti means Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. Shunya means zero, Anya Abhilashita. So all other desires are zero. There is no desire for my own sense gratification. There is no desire to please my own self. The only desire is I want to please the Lord. So that is Shuddha Bhakti, Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. And whatever results one gets from Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Yoga Mishra Bhakti, that a person in Shuddha Bhakti gets by default, he automatically gets it as a byproduct of his pure devotion. Although he does not desire it, still he gets it. Still he gets liberation, still he gets knowledge, and also he gets the fruits of his activities, although he does not desire it. So that's why pure bhakti is above any other bhakti yoga process. Because what we get in the other processes, by default, as a byproduct, we get in bhakti yoga. So we saw these categories in chapter 7. Remember the 4 categories of people who surrender to Krishna, we saw in 7.16. So out of those 4 categories of people who surrender to Krishna, the first 3, which is the distressed, the desire of wealth, and the inquisitive, they come under the category of Karma Mishra Bhaktas. Then amongst those 4, the last one who's searching for the knowledge of the Absolute, he is a Dhyana Mishra Bhakta. So Krishna says he is the best amongst the 4. Amongst these categories, this one is the best. Why? Because after many, many births and deaths, finally he comes to me, and such a soul is very rare. But a one who's engaged in Bhakti Yoga process, he does not have to wait for so many births. By doing Bhakti, one can realize God at the end of this lifetime itself. Then in 7.29, which was a connecting verse for chapter 8, Krishna spoke about the Yoga Mishra Bhakta, and that's what has connected us to this chapter. So see here, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshastakam, in his 8th Shikshastakam prayer, he says, again, what is pure bhakti? Let's read the translation.
I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally.
So this is unconditional love. Pure bhakti means no conditions. Doesn't matter what Krishna does to me, whether he handles me roughly, whether he embraces me, he breaks my heart. He can do whatever he likes with me. Doesn't matter. Whatever he does, he still is my worshipful Lord. Like this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thing. So this is pure bhakti. Not that, oh, Krishna is making me go through a rough patch, so let me, so now my faith shakes. And I'm thinking, why is Krishna doing this to me? I start asking questions. I have my doubts. Oh, is really Krishna Bhakta Vatsala? Is he really my well-wisher? So this is not pure bhakti. Okay, so in this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, we see about the how a devotee does not desire any of the 5 kinds of liberation. So the 5 kinds of liberation: Salokya, Sashti, Samipya, Sarupya, and Ekatva. Ekatva means Sayugya, where that is merging into the Brahman effulgence. We have discussed the 5 kinds of liberation before. So a pure devotee does not accept any kind of liberation. He is not interested in any of these 5 kinds of liberation, even though they are offered by the Lord. A pure devotee does not even desire mukti. If the Lord tells him go to hell, also he is ready to go and suffer in hell. It doesn't matter to him. All that he wants is, I want to please the Lord. Okay, let's do 8.9.
Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anoraniyam Samanusmaredhyah Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasah Parastha.
One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who who is the controller, who is the smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature.
So here Krishna is talking about the different ways by which we should remember Krishna. So what are the different ways by which we should remember Krishna? Kavim, the one who knows everything. So Krishna knows past, present, and future. Then Puranam, the oldest. So we discussed how everything comes from Krishna. Krishna has not come from anyone. Therefore, Krishna is the oldest. There's no one and nothing that has come before him. Okay. Then Anushashitaram, he is the controller. Ano, Aniyamsam. So he's smaller than the atom. How is he smaller than the atom? Because he enters into the heart of every living entity. And he resides in the heart as the super soul. So what is the size of the soul? The size of the soul is 1/10,000th of the tip of the hair. So he is entering in the heart of every living entity. Therefore, he is smaller than the smallest. Okay, then Dhataram, he is the maintainer of all living entities and of all the worlds. Achintya, he is inconceivable. It's not possible for one to know all about Krishna. We can know Krishna, but we can continue to know him. We can never know him enough. Okay, so we can know Krishna as we read, as we progress in our spiritual life, as we get more and more realizations, as we associate more and more with devotees. Yes, we can know Krishna, but we can always continue to know him. Then Rupam, he has a form, he's a person, he's a person like you and me, but he is the topmost person. He is Purushottam, Purusha Uttama, he's a topmost person. Then Aditya Varnam, he is luminous like the sun, and he is Parastat, he is transcendental, he is completely spiritual, he is not material. So these are the different ways by which we must remember Krishna. Here is a summary, let's read.
8.9 How to think of Krishna mentions ways of thinking or meditating on the Supreme. Kavim, knower of everything, past, present, and future. Puranam, oldest, all born out of him. Anushashitaram, controller. Aniyamsam, smaller than the smallest, enters into each atom, enters into the heart of the living entity, who is 1/10,000th the tip of a hair. Sarvasya Dhataram, maintainer of everything. Achintya, inconceivable, beyond all material conception, all big planets are floating by his energy. God's energy is beyond our thinking jurisdiction. Logic and philosophical speculation cannot touch him. Sign of real intelligence. Accept the principles of Shastra as it is. Avoid useless arguments and speculations. Rupam, always a person. Aditya Varnam, luminous like sun. Parastat, transcendental beyond this material nature. Bhagavad Gita 8.9 refutes absolute truth as impersonal, recommends meditation on personality.
Okay. 8.10.
प्रयाणकाले मनसाचलेन भक्त्या युक्तो योगबलेन चैव भ्रुवोर्मध्ये प्राणमावेश्य सम्यक् सतं परं पुरुषमुपैति दिव्यम्.
One who at the time of death fixes his life air between the eyebrows and by strength of yoga with an undeviating mind engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So all these practices help a yogi to remember Krishna. What he has to do, fix his life air between the eyebrows and engage himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion. So remember, this is for a Yoga Mishra Bhakta. This whole section, Krishna is talking about how a Yoga Mishra Bhakta can remember Krishna at the time of death. So we have discussed this when we did Ashtanga Yoga, chapter number 6. Krishna in detail explained how one has to practice this yoga system. So he slowly increases his consciousness. And here Krishna is saying that where he has to fix his life hair between the eyebrows. Okay, so very interestingly, every chakra, wherever we have these chakras, we have these glands in the body which secrete certain hormones, and it's this which is very important, very crucial for our health, isn't it? One, if there is excess hormone or there is less hormone being secreted from any of the glands in our body, then our health gets affected. So wherever our Shastra says that we have these chakras or these points in our body, that's where we actually have these glands. But anyway, for a Bhakti Yogi, this does not matter, because a Bhakti Yogi, for him, the process is much more simple. He does not have to raise his consciousness from the lower points to the higher points in the body and maintain it between his eyebrows. This is the practice. This for a Bhakti Yogi, the process is much more simple, which of course Krishna will explain after he finishes with the Yoga Mishra Bhaktas. He explains how for the Bhakti Yogis it's much more simple. Okay, let's go to 8.11.
यदक्षरं वेदविदो वदन्ति विशन्ति यद्यतयो वीतरागाः यदिच्छन्तो ब्रह्मचर्यं चरन्ति तत्ते पदं संग्रहेण प्रवक्ष्ये.
Persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkara, and who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation.
So enter into Brahman, merge into the Brahman effulgence. So there are 4 conditions that Krishna is giving for one who can merge into the Brahman effulgence. What are these 4 conditions? One is learn the Vedas. One has to be learned in the Vedas. 2, utter Omkara. 3, great sage in the renounced order. And 4, practice celibacy. So these are the 4 conditions for one who enters into the Brahman effulgence. So the Vedic system was that students learn to vibrate Om and learn about the impersonal Brahman. So the students in the previous ages, they would leave their families and they would go to the Gurukul and stay with the spiritual master. They would render service to the spiritual master as a menial servant, right? They would serve the spiritual master, and under the spiritual master's training, they would live a celibate life, live in celibacy. They were trained up in such a way, and they would vibrate Om and they would learn the Vedas from their spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that no celibacy is possible in the modern times in Kali Yuga, because there is no such institution to train up the students in celibacy. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya, who is the Yuga Acharya, he has given us the Yuga Dharma. The Yuga Dharma, or the Dharma for this age of Kali, is to chant the holy name of the Lord. 8.12.
सर्वद्वाराणि संयम्य मनोहृदि निरुध्य च मूर्ध्याध्यायात्मनः प्राणम् आस्थितो योगधारणाम्.
The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga.
So in order to practice this, in order to practice what Krishna said in 8.11, first of all, there should be no sense enjoyment. See, the yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual enjoyment. So there should be no sense gratificatory activities. And then fixing the mind on the heart. So he is meditating on the Paramatma, on the super soul in the heart, and he is fixing the life air at the top of the head. So with these conditions, like this, he has to practice. The Yoga Mishra Bhakta has to practice in this way, and then he maintains himself there, and like that he can think of Krishna. Yes, point 13.
ओमित्येकाक्षरं ब्रह्म व्याहरन् मामनुस्मरन् यः प्रयाति त्यजन् देहं स याति परमां गतिम्.
After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets.
So by chanting the Ekaksharam, the one syllable, the single syllable Om is just one syllable. No? So Krishna is saying by chanting the single syllable Om, then Mam Anusmaram, one who thinks about me, then what happens? Tyajan Deham, when he gives up his body, Deha, when he gives up his body, when he quits his body, then Paramam Gatim, then he can reach the supreme destination. So see this thing about chanting of Om, which Krishna is explaining. Krishna goes on to talk about Om even in chapter 9 and 10, and he says that he is the syllable Om. Of all the vibrations, I am the transcendental Om, Krishna says. So he says that he is not different from Om. So why chant Hare Krishna? Why not chant Om? Somebody may ask. Let's read this.
Why chant Hare Krishna and why not chant Om? Omkara is a mantra or Maha Mantra, and Hare Krishna is also a Maha Mantra. The purpose of pronouncing Omkara is to address the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudev, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And the purpose of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra is the same.
So the purpose of both Om and the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the same, which is to address Krishna. So the purpose is the same. Then why, if the purpose is the same, then why Om? First, let's discuss that. Let's read this.
Why Om? An unusual attribute of Om is that there's no direct translation from Sanskrit into English. Therefore, every Vedantist will accept Om to be a representation of God, irrespective of whether he accepts Krishna or not. So, even if the mantra is not directed to Krishna specifically, Krishna will be remembered and included in the mantra to make it effective.
So even if one does not directly accept Krishna, when he chants Om, automatically he is directing, he is including Krishna in his prayer. So last time we discussed, no, every Vedic mantra, whether it may be addressed to Lord Ganesh or Lakshmi or anybody else, every Vedic mantra begins with the syllable Om. And when we say Om, we are addressing Krishna. Automatically we are worshipping Krishna before we worship anybody else. And one may or may not accept Krishna, but one does not have a problem in accepting Om, the syllable Om. So this is one advantage Om has, that it will be accepted by everyone. Not everybody will accept Krishna, but people usually do not have a problem in chanting Om, whichever faith they may belong to. Yeah, let's read a little bit more.
Om is included in the name of Krishna. In Satya Yuga, the only mantra was Omkara, Om Tat Sat. The same name Omkara is manifest in the mantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
So in Satya Yuga, the people, they would chant this Omkara. And the same potency that is there in Omkara is there in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So if everything is the same, then still somebody may say, okay, then I prefer to chant Om. I don't want to chant the Mahamantra. Let's see.
Impersonal sound of Krishna is Om. If one's understanding of the absolute truth stops at Brahman, then one chants only Om. If it goes beyond this to the source of Brahman, then one chants Hare Krishna.
So if one's understanding of the absolute truth stops at Brahman, which means he thinks that God is the effulgence, right? The light emanating from Krishna's body. It's not, his conception of God has not gone beyond Brahman to understand Paramatma and Bhagavan realizations. If his understanding stops at Brahman, then one chants only Om. As that's why every transcendentalist has no issue in chanting Om. But when one goes beyond the Brahman understanding, to understand that God is a person, Bhagavan realization, then one chants Hare Krishna, because when one is saying Hare Krishna, one is taking the name of Krishna and his energy, right? So this is beyond the understanding of only the Brahman effulgence. And another point that we make is, one has to be a qualified Brahman to be able to chant Om. One should be qualified. There is a specific time of the day. One should sit in a specific direction, and one should be clean. And like that, there are some rules and regulations to chant Om. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he told us that in this age of Kali, everyone, anyone can chant the Hare Krishna mantra irrespective of whether one is qualified or no, and one does not have to worry about rules and regulations. Niyamita smarane na kala. Niyamita, there is no niyam, na kala. So in Kali Yuga, there is no rule and regulation for chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And coming to only a qualified Brahman can chant the Hare Krishna mantra. In this age of Kali, everyone is born a Shudra. That is the standard of this age. This is such a rotten and fallen age that everyone is Shudra. Actually, less than Shudras also. This is the standard here. So where are we such qualified Brahmanas that we can chant the syllable Om? Now in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the last canto, Sukadeva Goswami tells Maharaj Parikshit is telling Sukadeva Goswami that I'm very worried that this age of Kali is such a rotten, such a fallen age. How will people be able to realize God? How will self-realization be possible in that age? It's so rotten. So in reply to that, Sukadeva Goswami tells this verse, he speaks this verse. What does he say? Kaler dosha nide rajan. Kali may be an ocean of faults, but ashtihi eko mahan guna. It has one great quality. What is that great quality? Kirtanat eva krishnasya. By doing kirtan, or by taking the name of Krishna, which is of course the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then what happens? Mukta Sangha. He can get mukti, he can get liberated, and then Param Vrajet. He will be promoted to the transcendental kingdom, Param, the topmost kingdom. So Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, but it has one good quality, which is by chanting the name of Krishna, one can get liberated and go back to the transcendental kingdom. So this chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is the recommended process for Kali Yuga. Of course, Om, Krishna is Om. He says, I am the transcendental sound vibration Om. So he's not different from Om. And when we say Om, we are addressing Krishna only. But there are some rules and regulations to be followed, which is not there for chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So with this, we come to the end of this particular section where Krishna talks about how a Yoga Mishra Bhakta can practice meditation on Krishna and how he can think of Krishna at the time of death. Now we'll come to the next section. Here in this section, Krishna talks about pure devotional service. Let's read this.
Section 4, 8.14 to 8.16, Pure Devotional Service. Remembrance of Krishna through bhakti and the nature of the spiritual world which one attains by practicing pure devotional service.
Ananyachetaha satatam yo mam smarati nityashah tasyaham sulabhah partha नित्ययुक्तस्य योगिनः.
For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Partha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service.
So we said that here Krishna is going to talk about pure bhakti. Now, can you tell me which term in this shloka tells us that Krishna is talking about pure bhakti? How do we spot it? How can we say that?
Only one word?
Yeah,
We have to identify one word.
one word or a combination of two words, to be more specific.
Ananya Cheta.
Yes, Ananya Chetaha, without deviation of the mind. So we saw no how pure bhakti means Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. So same thing here, Ananya Chetaha. No other deviation, nothing else distracts. Okay, so here Krishna is talking about pure bhakti. So what is he saying? And another important point here, he uses the word Sulabha in the third line. Sulabha, very, very easy to achieve. This is the first and only time that Krishna uses the word Sulabha, very easy. So Bhakti Yoga is very, very easy. He did not use this term when he spoke about the other yoga process. He did not use this term when he spoke about the Yoga Mishra Bhaktas, right? But now he's saying Sulabha, very easy to achieve. So what is he saying? For one who always remembers me without deviation, for such a person, I am very easy to obtain because of his constant engagement in Satatam, constantly engaged in devotional service. So see, these are the desires of the other transcendentalists. A karmi, what does he desire? He desires his own sense gratification. He wants promotion to heavenly planets. A Gyani, what is his desire? He wants relief from material misery. So a Karmi, when he approaches the Lord, we saw how when he's distressed, when he's desiring wealth, when he's hassled, then he goes to Krishna. So he is desiring his own sense gratification, or he wants to go to the heavenly planets. He wants unlimited facility for sense gratification in heaven, which is available to him. Then a Jnani, now he's frustrated with material life, so he wants relief from material misery. Therefore, he is engaging in bhakti and he enjoys knowledge. So jnana, when one has a lot of knowledge, it gives one the opportunity to get puffed up. One can become proud of one's knowledge, isn't it? So a jnani, he enjoys that knowledge that he has and he desires relief from material misery. So still that is also he wants something for himself. And a yogi, an Ashtanga yogi, he desires mystic abilities and moksha. So he wants liberation, and he also enjoys, because when one engages in Ashtanga yoga process, he can develop some mystic abilities. So that's why we see sometimes yogis, they can walk on water, they can make themselves very light, they can float in the air. They can transport themselves from one place to the other place in a few minutes. So these are mystic powers that they get as a byproduct of engaging in Ashtanga yoga. So all these other transcendentalists, these other categories, they desire something for themselves. But a pure bhakti, he desires only the pleasure of the Lord. So he is not desiring anything for himself. He desires only the pleasure of the Lord. Therefore, they are ready even to go to hell. Therefore, they get perfect peace, because Krishna says that he is a supreme enjoyer, and when Krishna is satisfied, automatically the living entities are satisfied. So that's why they get perfect peace. So pure bhakti means ananya chetaha, no other desire. Okay, this we will skip. Okay, let's read this.
A pure devotee and the Lord never forget each other for a moment. Thus, an unalloyed devotee can easily obtain the final destination.
So why is it easy for a devotee? Because he is depending on the mercy of Krishna. And Krishna never forgets his devotee. Krishna is Bhakta Vatsala. Devotee never forgets Krishna. Krishna never forgets his devotee. Therefore, the final destination can be very, very easily obtained. Sulabha is the word Krishna used. Okay, 8.50.
मामुपेत्य पुनर्जन्म दुःखालयमशाश्वतम् नाप्नुवन्ति महात्मानः संसिद्धिं परमां गताः.
After attaining me, the great souls, who are yogis in devotion, never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection.
Okay, let's see. Let's have a short Hindi class. What is a hospital called in Hindi?
Aspatal.
Aspatal.
Okay, another one.
No, it was another word.
Okay, which other word?
You once mentioned it,
Uh-huh.
but
Could
now
you
I don't remember. It was a difficult Sanskrit word.
Uh-huh. Yes. So does anybody know?
Dukkhalayam.
Hospital? But one can get cured also in a hospital.
I can search on my copybook.
Okay. Okay, let's go to another word. What is ministry called in Sanskrit? Ministry?
Prajapati something. Prajapati something.
No,
Bhavan? No.
no.
In Sanskrit?
Yeah, Sanskrit or Hindi? Let's stick to Hindi.
I don't even know in Gujarati. How will I know Hindi?
Okay,
Oh.
what is a place where cows are kept? What is that called?
Goshala.
Goshala. Yes,
Goshala.
Goshala. Okay, now stick to that. Goshala or Goshalaya. Now, can you think what is a hospital called? Huh? Okay,
Wait,
what is a library called in Hindi?
Granthalaya.
Pustakalaya. Okay.
Pustakalaya.
I
Pustakalaya.
know what you are directing us to. I'm trying to figure out that.
Ala. Chichistakalaya. Chichistakalaya.
Yeah. Chikitsalaya. Chikitsalaya. Yes.
Chikitsalaya.
Yes. So what is Chikitsalaya?
Chikitsalaya.
Yeah. So
Hospital.
what is
right? Hospital.
hospital? Yes. Hospital. Okay. Do we know what is the ministry called now?
Something alayam. Puskalaya.
No. What is a minister?
Karyalaya.
No. Karyalaya is office. An office is called as a Karyalaya. So ministry is Mantralaya.
Mantralaya. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Mantra. The mantri.
Yes, the mantri. Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
Komal.
And where the cows are is called as Goshala. And what is a school? School is called what?
Gurukula.
No. Another word. Going with this flow.
Vidyapit.
Shala.
Vidyalaya.
Yes,
Vidyalaya.
Vidyalaya. School is Vidyalaya. Very nice. So the word Alaya means the place or the abode. Okay. And look what Krishna is calling this material world. He is calling this material world as Dukhalayam. Dukhalaya. A place of miseries. A place of miseries. This is how Krishna is describing the material world. It says Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. So not only is it a place full of miseries, it is also temporary. Ashashvatam. It is temporary. It is not permanent. So even if one is very successful and he may be very proud of his achievements, whatever he achieves here is only temporary. Okay, so this material world is Dukhalayam Ashashvatam, says Krishna. This is Krishna giving us the straight sauce. No, he is not. Sometimes a motivational speaker, a so-called motivational speaker, will say, "Oh, this world is a beautiful place. This life is so wonderful, isn't it? Let's be positive." But Krishna is not like that. Krishna, he tells you the truth. No, straightforward. He says, "This place is a place full of miseries. So don't even try to make this place beautiful. you will only get misery. The nature of the material world is like that. That's the nature of the material world. So this is a dukkha alayam. The material world is dukkha alayam, place of miseries and ashashvatam. But then, of course, if talking about positivity, one can argue that it's not that Krishna is telling us a negative, he's giving us the truth, but at the same time, what can be more positive for us than to know that I don't have to die, I don't have to grow old, I don't have to go through disease, because nobody likes to have a disease, nobody likes to die, nobody likes to grow old. Yes. So yes, Krishna is giving us positivity, and he's telling us that this place is Dukhalayam, and he also gives us the solution how to come out of it. He's not giving us false hopes and telling us that no, this place is beautiful. He's not interested in that. He's telling us the truth, but he's also telling us how we can solve this problem. Okay. Now, what is the promise that he's making in 8.15? He says, after attaining me, the great souls, they never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries. So once we go to the spiritual realm, we will not come back again to the material world. This is Krishna's promise. So if somebody is concerned, okay, I will spend my lifetime, I dedicate this to Krishna and I sacrifice, I am not enjoying, quote unquote, enjoying, and I perform sadhana, etc., and I go to the spiritual world. But then what if I come back again? Then whatever I have done, all my efforts will go in vain. No, it will not go in vain, because Krishna says, once you come to me, then you will not have to come back again. So one may ask, then how come we are here in the first place? Because originally we were with him in the spiritual realm. Then how come we are here? Now again, the answer to that question is, we are here because we have minute independence. We have minute free will. And because we have that minute independence, the moment we desire to enjoy independently from Krishna, we came here. But now again, Krishna is saying, once you come there, you will not go back again. So does it mean that once we go to the spiritual world, we lose our free will? No, we still have our free will. But then how can Krishna guarantee that we will not come down again? If we have the free will, then we can still desire the same thing and we can still come to the material world. How does he guarantee that it will not happen again? So how to answer this question?
Because by that time we would have known that, we cannot enjoy independently. So we won't even desire after going back. Right?
Yes, exactly. We have already learned our lesson. Now,
Yes.
Prabhu Nirantara gives this example of a small child. If you tell a small child, don't put your finger in the fan, you will get hurt. The child may, out of curiosity, go and put his finger once in the fan. But once that finger gets cut and he bleeds and he goes to the hospital and he gets stitches and he's crying and he's lost a lot of blood, etc., he goes through that suffering. Will that child ever go and put that finger in the fan again? Never again he's going to do it. So in the same way, we have learned our lesson, right? So once we go back, now we have learned our lesson. So although we have the free will, although the child has the possibility of again going and putting the finger in the fan, he's never going to do it again because now he has learned his lesson. So in the same way, because we have learned our lesson, although we have the free will, it will not happen again. We will not fall down again. So Krishna is promising us that once you come to me, then never again you will fall into the material realm.
And after we go back to the spiritual world, we still remember our previous life, right, in the material world.
Yeah, we can. We are allowed to remember it, and we can also, sometimes people ask, why did I come here? What did I do wrong? So all those questions would be answered when we are back in the spiritual realm. Right now, those questions are not important. No, the example is, if the house is on fire, what's the first thing we're going to do? We want to get out of the house which is on fire. So we are in this material world. First thing we have to be concerned about is get out of this place. Later, we can inquire, what is it that caused the fire? Was it a short circuit? Was it an accident? Later, we can make those inquiries, right? But right now, the emergency thing is get out of it. So yes, we can. So here, Krishna's description of the material, Dukhalayam, Ashashvam. So there is no point in trying to make this world a better place to live in. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. One Shreya asked this question, no? Do you remember your question, Shreya? that sometimes your friends tell you that this place is such a wonderful place.
I know there are many people who tell me that.
Yes, but then
Like,
Krishna says
why?
this is Dukhalayam Ashashvatam, because birth, death, disease, and old age is always going to be there. And also the three kleshas, no, Adhyatmika, Adi Daivika, and Adi Bhautika. These kleshas are always going to be there. And as long as these things are there, how can this world be a happy place to live in? That's why Krishna said this is Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. So see, different people perceive the world differently. So the first category are Shreya's friends. They see the world as a place of enjoyment. They romanticize the world. So they are the karmis. Then the Gyanis, they demonize the material world because they see it as the place of entanglement. That's why they want to reject everything material. They leave their homes, they leave their families, and they go to the forest. So they demonize the material world because they see it as a cause of entanglement. But how does a devotee see the material world? He sees the material world as an opportunity to utilize the material in the service of the Lord. So they engage the material world or anything material in the service of the Lord, and they can spiritualize the material. So this is how a bhakta sees the material world. Okay.
ब्रह्म भुवना लोकाः पुनरावर्तिनोऽर्जुन मामुपेत्य तु कौन्तेय पुनर्जन्म न विद्यते.
From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again.
So Krishna is saying from the highest planet, which is the highest planet in the material world?
Swargaloka to Pataloka?
There is something higher than Swarga also.
Vaikuntha?
No, Vaikuntha is not place of misery. In the material world, which is the highest planet? What is the topmost of the 14 planetary systems?
Material word Narka.
Naraka is
Satyaloka.
down. Which is highest?
Satyaloka?
Satyaloka, or the abode of Lord Brahma. So
Lord
the
Brahma.
highest planet is the abode of Lord Brahma. So Krishna is saying from the highest, from including Lord Brahma's abode till the lowest, Patalaloka, all are planets of suffering. One should not think that because I am in Swarga, see, Swargaloka is here. Above Swargaloka, we have Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka. So one should not think that because I'm in Swargaloka, there is no suffering. Because as in Satyaloka, there is no suffering. As long as there is birth, death, disease, and old age, there is suffering. So these are not eternal places. Even Lord Brahma's abode is not eternal. This is also temporary. Because Lord Brahma himself is temporary, his abode is temporary. Everything material is temporary. Therefore, it's a place of suffering. Let's read this.
End of section 4, 8.14 to 16, pure devotional service. By constant engagement in devotional service, one who undeviatingly remembers Krishna easily attains the Lord's abode far from this miserable material world. Practical application. The practice of pure devotional service is a qualification for one to attain Lord's favor. By Lord's mercy, the pure devotee is promoted to spiritual realm. Section 5, 8.17 to 8.22, comparing the material and spiritual worlds or the glories of supreme abode.
Okay, let's see 8.17.
सहस्रयुगपर्यन्तम् अहर्यद्ब्रह्मणो विदुः रात्रिं युगसहस्रान्तां ते होरात्रविदो जनाः.
By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night.
So Krishna is saying, by human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day. So this is 1,000 ages. What kind of ages are these?
It's Satyug, Dwapar Yug, Treta Yug, and Kal Yug combined together, multiplied by 100, is
Multiplied
1 day.
by? Multiplied by?
100? No?
You're close. 1 0 is less.
Oh, 1,000.
Yes.
Then what was 100? Oh,
Yeah.
now, yeah. Multiplied by 1,000 is 1 day of Brahma, right?
Yes. And the same number, and
Yes.
also is, and such also is the duration of his night. So the same number that you mentioned now, double it to form his nights,
Nice.
right?
Yeah.
So here it goes. These are the 4 yugas put together. All of them form one Divya Yuga. So 1,000 Divya Yuga make for Brahma's day, and the same number of years make for Brahma's night. Now, how to calculate the life of Brahma?
That 100, and he lives for 100 such years, right?
So how do we come to that figure? 4,320,000 into 1,000 into 2.
Into 1,000 into 2,
Okay. Now into
365 days. That's
3.
1 year,
Yeah. 3.
right? And then
According to Vedic calculation, 360 days make 1 year.
1 year, and then that multiplied by 100 is life of Brahma.
Exactly. Yes. Perfect. So see, 4,320,000 into 1,000 into 2. Now, instead of putting 360, we have put here into 30 because 30 days make a month according to Vedic calculation. Into 12 months into 100 because Brahma lives for 100 such years. This gives us the duration of Brahma's age, which is 311 trillion and 40 billion years. So right now, we are in the Kali Yuga of the 28th Divya Yuga. In the first day of Lord Brahma's 51st year. So our Brahma is now 50 years old and he is in his 51st year. Let's read this.
By these calculations, the life of Brahma seems fantastic and interminable, but from the viewpoint of eternity, it is as brief as a lightning flash. In the casual ocean, there are innumerable Brahmas rising and disappearing like bubbles in the Atlantic.
So for us, it may seem like eternal, 311 trillion years. Oh, that will go on forever. When is it going to come to an end? Right? But from the cosmic calculation, it's just like bubbles rising and disappearing in the ocean because it's just one breath of Mahavishnu. Once Mahavishnu breathes in, everything is destroyed. Once he breathes out, again creation takes place. So for him, it's just that one breath. Once somebody asked a devotee, oh, when will all this suffering come to an end? He was so fed up. He's saying, when will all this nonsense come to an end? Because you hear so much in the news and etc. Right? So the devotee told him, it will come to an end when Mahavishnu breathes in. Otherwise, it's not going to come to an end. We have to wait till he can breathe in. So this is how it is. Okay, let's read.
The duration of the 2 parts of Brahma's life, as above mentioned, is calculated to be equal to 1 nimesh, less than a second, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is unchanging and unlimited and is a cause of all causes of the universe.
So this Brahma's life is less than 1 second. Nimesha. Nimesha means less than even 1 second. That's how much Lord Brahma lasts. So in the material realm, there are 2 aspects to creation, Sarga and Visarga. Usually we know Lord Brahma as the creator, but Brahma is not the creator. Actually, Lord Brahma is the created creator because there is a lot happening before Brahma also. Brahma is in charge of Visarga, secondary creation. But before that, there is Sarga, which is primary creation. That's going on. In fact, Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 subject matters, and 2 of the 10 subject matters are Sarga and Visarga to understand primary and secondary creation. So, who is Krishna's first expansion in the material world?
Mahavishnu.
Yes, Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu is Krishna's first expansion in the material world. But now let's remove that word material world from the question. Who is Krishna's first expansion? You're on mute, Vrinda.
Vishnu? Vishnu?
Brahmaji.
No, Vishnu is in the material world. Remove that material world from the question. The question is, who is Krishna's first expansion?
Brahma?
No, Brahma comes after Mahavishnu also. No, from
Balaram.
Mahavishnu comes Garbhodakashay Vishnu. From the navel of
Yeah,
Garbhodakashay
yeah,
Vishnu
yeah.
comes Brahma.
Balaram.
Balaram, yes, Balaram is Krishna's first expansion. See, from Krishna comes Lord Balaram. From Lord Balaram comes the first quadruple expansion. Vasudev, Sankarshan, Aniruddha and Pradyumna. Then from the first Sankarshan comes Narayan. From Narayan comes the second quadruple expansions. The second Vasudev, second Sankarshan, second Aniruddha and second Pradyumna. Now from the second Sankarshan, also known as Mahasankarshan, only comes Mahavishnu. From Mahavishnu comes Garbhodakashay Vishnu, and then Garbhodakashay Vishnu expands as Kshirodakashay Vishnu or the Super Soul. And it is from the navel of Garbhodakashay Vishnu that the lotus comes, and from the lotus, Brahma appears. Let's read this.
The Mahavishnu expanded from Sankarshan, enters the Karan ocean and lies there. He is also known as Karana Dakshay Vishnu. He is very, very large. He then takes rest, or we call it Yoga Nidra.
So this is Mahavishnu. Let's read this.
Causal ocean is a substance.
Causal ocean.
Causal ocean is the substance, originally a cloud-like darkness in one corner of the spiritual sky in Vaikuntha, from which the material world is created. Material nature resides eternally within the causal ocean. To initiate the material creation, Mahavishnu glances at material nature, thus agitating her to begin expanding the material elements. Viewed from inside the material universe, the same causal ocean appears like a surrounding shell of water and is named the Viraj River.
Okay. So see,
Virja river.
in one corner of the spiritual world is a dark cloud-like substance. That dark cloud-like substance is the material realm. So you can see the picture below the lotus, below Goloka. There is, see, normally if you have a flower, right below the flower, that area will be dark, isn't it? So this is a dark cloud-like substance, and that is where Mahavishnu is residing. And Viraja river is the demarcation between the material and the spiritual worlds. It is flowing between the two worlds. And it is in this river that Mahavishnu is residing, and he is creating universes from his pores. Now, these universes are egg-shaped and they are golden colored universes. And then we know that inside each universe, we have 14 planetary systems. And inside that, inside each universe, we have Garbhodakashay Vishnu. And from Garbhodakashay Vishnu comes Kshirodakashay Vishnu. So Mahavishnu, he glances. Now remember here, see, you can see here, Mahavishnu is lying in the causal ocean. Now he is glancing at material nature, and his glance takes the form of Shambhu. And then Shambhu and Durga unite. And that's how the living entities are transferred. It's like getting activated. Okay, by the glance of Mahavishnu, this whole material nature gets activated. Just as how we may have a cell phone chip but we have to activate the chip in order for us to be able to make and receive calls through that chip, isn't it? So it is in an unactivated state. The material nature is in an unactivated state. When Mahavishnu glances at it, he is activating it. Let's read this.
Brahma Jyoti Mahat Tattva material sky from Pradhana to Prakriti. The three stages of matter are compared to a woman, Pradhana stage, who is made pregnant, Prakriti stage, and then delivers into Mahat Tattva.
So it's in the Pradhana stage is the unactivated stage. And then when it is activated, then it becomes Prakriti. Okay, so anyway, we will not go into all these such too much detailing is not important. This is just for your idea, but the Srimad Bhagavatam goes into great detail of how this entire creation takes place. So you see here, Mahavishnu is glancing. That glance takes the form of Shambhu. Let's read this.
By the Lord's glance, he impregnates the material nature with the living entities. The personality, Shambhu, Lord Shiva, assists the Lord by transferring the jivas into the material energy. The Lord does not touch the material nature. He does so via Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva's abode is on the edge of the Virja river.
So the Supreme Lord, he does not touch material energy. Lord Shiva comes in contact with material energy. That's the difference between Shiva and the Supreme Lord Krishna. Krishna does not touch material energy, but Shiva, he touches material energy because remember, the glance of Mahavishnu is taking the form of Shambhu and Durga unite. So because Lord Shiva is coming in touch with material energy, that's the reason why he is not the supreme personality of Godhead, but at the same time, he is not completely Jiva Tattva also. He's in between. He's in his own Tattva, Shiva Tattva. He's in between the material and the spiritual realms. Let's read this.
Mahavishnu, from Mahavishnu comes Garbhodakshay Vishnu, from that into every golden universe. Garbhodakshay, from Garbhodakshay comes Shirodakshay Vishnu, super soul, and he enters into every atom and the hearts of every living entity.
Okay, so on the left hand side, you can see Mahavishnu creating these golden universes. And on the right, how Shirodakashay Vishnu is entering into the heart of every living entity. Okay, let's read this.
The Lord sprouts a golden lotus from his navel. The firstborn Brahma is brought into this universe. The lotus is said to be the reservoir of all the living entities within this universe.
So Lord Brahma creates the bodies, different varieties. There are 8,400,000 varieties of bodies. So he is creating the different bodies for the different living entities. So what Brahma does is Visarga. Before that, as we discussed, there is a lot happening. Universes are being created, then Mahavishnu is expanding as Garbhodakashay Vishnu. Garbhodakashay Vishnu is expanding as Shirodakashay Vishnu. Then Mahavishnu is activating, right, by his glance. Then Lord Shambhu and Durga uniting. So all this is happening much before Lord Brahma. So let's go through it again. Lord Brahma comes from
the lotus, from the navel of Garbhodakshay Vishnu.
Exactly, Garbhodakashay Vishnu. Garbhodakashay Vishnu comes from
Mahavishnu.
Mahavishnu comes from
Krishna.
But there are other personalities in between.
Mahavishnu.
Shirodakshaya?
No, Shirodakashay comes from Garbhodakashay Vishnu.
The second placeholder is Balaram.
Yes, yes, correct. Second place is Balaram, but who comes before Mahavishnu?
That we saw
Narayan?
first.
Narayan.
Narayan? No, there is someone after Narayan.
That we saw in 4 slides ahead.
Yes,
Sankar.
yes.
Sankar.
Sankar.
Yes, second Sankarshan. Second Sankarshan. Remember the four
Second
multiple
Sankar.
expansions? Yeah, so from Mahasankarshan or second Sankarshan comes Mahavishnu. Now, second Sankarshan comes from?
First Sankar.
No, there is one. There is a personality in between.
Pradyumna.
No.
We can go 4 slides back and see again.
No.
Yes.
So second Sankarshan, we took his name like a few seconds ago.
Imagine what a fragile memory we have.
Welcome to Kali Yuga.
Narayan.
Narayan, yes,
Narayan.
Narayan. Second Sankarshan comes from Narayan. And Narayan comes from?
First Sankar.
Brahma.
First
comes
Sankarshan, yes. And then
Sankarshan.
before
Balarama.
Sankarshan we have
Then
Balaram.
Balaram. Balaram
And
comes from
Krishna.
Yeah.
Krishna. Yes. So Krishna is not an avatar. Krishna is avatari. Srila Prabhupada explains. He is the source of all other avatars. All the avatars come from Krishna. Now, is it disrespectful to call Lord Brahma a Devata or demigod? After we see all these expansions that are coming before Brahma, is it disrespectful? No, it's not, because we are only stating a fact. That's all. Now, would Lord Brahma be happy if he is called as Bhagavan or the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Because remember, definition of Bhagavan he is full in 6 opulences. So, is he going to be happy if he is going to call Bhagavan?
No.
No, of course not, because it will make him uncomfortable. If the president of the country is visiting another country and there he is glorified, I'm sorry, if a minister, say he is the labor minister or the finance minister or the home minister, the external affairs minister, whatever it is, if he's visiting another country and there he is glorified as the president of his country, he is going to feel uncomfortable, or is he going to be very happy about it?
Uncomfortable, because you would feel that, oh, then I'm being charged of so many responsibilities or anything, right?
Yes,
So,
yes. Yeah, he's going to say that this is a misunderstanding and this is not right. I am not what you think I am. Ideally, that should be the situation. But Kali Yuga, we can't say. But anyway, so even Lord Brahma is not going to be happy if he is going to be called as a Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in fact, when we read the Brahma Samhita, we see how Lord Brahma is offering prayers to Krishna and how he glorifies Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this pastime we will keep as homework for our next class. So I request you to please read this chapter from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, chapter number 21, verses 59 to 89. Can you do that?
Yes.
Okay, so please make a note of this and then we will discuss this in the next class.
Can you send the link of the database or
Okay, I will
we can
send the
find
link.
it in the
Yeah, I will send the link. But the link that I will send will have the entire chapter. This is just 30 verses in between the chapters. So anyway, I will write it over there and I'll send the link. Then, of course, if you read the chapter, very, very nectarian chapter. The title is The Opulence and Sweetness of Lord Shri Krishna. Last class, we discussed about the 2 aspects, no? The 2 aspects of Krishna, opulence and sweetness. Aishwarya and Madhurya, opulence and sweetness. So this chapter itself is titled Opulence and Sweetness of Lord Shri Krishna. Entire chapter, very, very nectarian, but homework for discussion in the next class is verses 59 to 89. This is where we see this. You all know how to go to Vedabase, right?
yes.
Okay. So we'll stop here. We'll continue in the next class. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.